Andrew, can you discuss the short-term and long-term implications of what is happening in North Korea at the moment?
Look, I think in the short term, what it shows is that the North Koreans are clearly aiming to make their mark on regional dialogue, and in particular to send a message to the United States and South Korea that they're still a major player in Northeast Asia. But the other dimension here, I think, is North Korea's message to China, which is often overlooked. And I think historically, if you look at North Korea's engagement with its surrounding neighbours, historically it has been distrustful of neighbours in its immediate region. North Korean decision makers, I think, have a very clear view that you can only really be taken seriously as a world power, as a regional actor, if you have a nuclear arsenal. We know very little about the new North Korean leader, Kim Jongun. What we do know is that there have only been 3 leaders in North Korea's history, and all 3 have been from a direct lineage. Kim Jong, the current leader Kim Jong-un's father was Kim Jong-il, who passed away in 2011. His father was Kim Il-sung, the founder of North Korea in 1948. So North Korea has had very limited experience with different forms of leadership. We don't actually know how Kim Jong-un sees the world. He's 30 years old. He hasn't had any real experience in terms of leadership, again in contrast to his father, Kim Jong-il, who was part of the North Korean ruling elite for quite a while before he actually took over in 1994. So we don't know a lot about what Kim Jong-un's worldview is. We don't know how risk-averse he is. We don't know whether he is necessarily rational in terms of what our definition of rationality is. In terms of how we view North Korea, I think it is a bit of a mystery. It is very difficult to get inside the state in terms of finding out what's inside the black box in terms of worldviews and decision-making processes and so on, and that only adds, I think, to the uncertainty in the current environment. So in terms of what's happening in the short term, I think that's really important. What we don't know is the extent to which North Korea sees nuclear weapons not just as a defensive instrument, but also as an offensive instrument of coercion, in the sense that once North Korea begins to get the capability to strike not just South Korea and Japan, but also potentially the United States with nuclear weapons, how will that change their behaviour? Will that make them more conservative in the way they approach international relations, or will that make them more risk-averse, if you like, in the way they approach other countries? In the long term, it's difficult to say how this is going to change the regional dynamic. North Korea, most observers and most specialists agree, probably doesn't have the capacity to put nuclear warheads on top of any of its missiles yet, but that it's only really a matter of time until they do. And we're talking here maybe 2-3 years, possibly even shorter than that. So the key question is what happens when that actually occurs, and how will that change the behaviour of states in their own region? The US has made it very clear that it won't accept North Korea as a nuclear weapons state. What that means in practice, however, does that mean that they won't deal with the North Koreans at a diplomatic level? Does it mean that the Americans and their allies in the region will take military action to prevent North Korea from actually developing that long-range nuclear strike capability? There are a series of questions here, I think, that are very open to debate at the moment. And that, in a way, is what makes the current situation disconcerting, that we don't know the answers, not just to what North Korea has or it doesn't have, but also how this is going to play out in the long term. I think it's fair to say that even when or if the current crisis subsides, we will continue to experience periodic crises. This is not going to go away. If anything, it's probably going to intensify as North Korea gets closer to and eventually probably, almost certainly, crosses the long-range nuclear delivery threshold. And that will open up a new world